GOAT, legend, great, good. Let's do it.
Firstly, we're going to start with Harry Kane, England captain. Put him down as a great. What is the reason behind that?
I think, well, he's right up there. I think if he'd have probably stayed at Tottenham or in the Premier League, he would have been the closest that anyone's ever got to Alan Shearer. And I think that makes you a great. I think, what is he, third on the list, maybe second on the list? And that makes you a great. I think, I played with him as a young player, and how hard he's worked to get to where he is. I think left foot, right foot, header, his all-round game, the assists, his numbers stack up as an all-time great.
He left, went to Bayern Munich, then obviously Tottenham picked up a trophy. He did get one of his own as well, but do you think a little bit of him will be disappointed that he didn't stay for that season and get it with Tottenham?
Yeah, I think that Europa League trophy, maybe you won't say it, but I think that would have meant more to him than a Bundesliga with Bayern Munich. Having said that, I think Bayern Munich are closer to winning, a Champions League, which is ultimately probably what he would like to do.
Do you want to see him back in the Premier League at some
I'd
point?
love to see him back in the Premier League. I didn't want to see him leave the Premier League. He's a player I love watching play. Just when people want to write him off all the time, and he consistently comes back with numbers, and when he guaranteed you at least 20 goals in the Premier League, and assists as well, probably the same number. So, that's why he's an all-time great.
So next up we've got Robbie Fowler, natural goal scorer. What category are you going to put him in?
Obviously, I want to put him in great because I love Robbie Fowler so much. I've put him in good just because they're in the Premier League of all time. I think there are just a couple of players ahead of him. But to watch as a kind of 18, I would say, to 26, and I had the fortune of playing with him when he came back to Liverpool, and just an icon of the game, someone I looked up to, and someone that played with the kind of spirit that I loved watching. Like, that's when I looked at him, I was like, I want to do that. If I ever score, I just want that kind of joy that he had, and probably the most naturally gifted finishers we've ever seen.
Do you think the current generation underestimate his ability, what he gave?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of players that maybe the younger generation maybe, and not as bad as it says, like I'm an old, but there's like Les Ferdinand, Andy Cole, Robbie Fowler, Ian Wright. I think certainly those four strikers are undervalued, I would say, than in maybe with today's with the youth of today. They're not undervalued in my household, put it that way.
Next one is Zola. You put him as good.
Yeah. But obviously this makes me feel sick because he's a great player, an all-time great, fantastic. It's probably just the longevity of, certain players that I've put ahead of him. But I was a ball boy at Chelsea, and I kind of, ended up going to Chelsea with my dad, and I'd watched him firsthand, Gianfranco Zola. When he played with Vialli and Poyet, Di Matteo, he was a genius. And yeah, he hasn't got the goals of a Harry Kane or an Andy Cole or Les Ferdinand. He probably doesn't have, his numbers don't stack up compared to them. But as a footballer, the man was a genius.
Yeah, about goals there, he only scored 80 goals in all competition. That was over about 7 years. So I guess that's probably why maybe people wouldn't put him in their list.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, but like I saw him firsthand, and this is a personal list to me. And having watched it, he could do things that players in the 1, 2 and 3 couldn't do. The free kicks were as good as any player I've ever seen. And I put him up there, with David Beckham, Roberto Carlos, any free kick taker, I put Gianfranco Zola next to them. Creativity-wise, he could control a game, he could go past people, he could score goals, and he could see things that other players couldn't see. And for me, that's what I look at in a footballer when I class them as a top player, and he had everything.
How do you think he'd fare with the current crop of players now then?
I think he could play at his age now in the Premier League. I think he's that good.
Next one, Andy Cole. You've put him down as a great. Talk to me about why you've put him in that category.
Well, I think people don't talk about Andy Cole in the right zone. He's an all-time great. I think certainly even before the Premier League, I think it was at Newcastle. He had a combination with Peter Beardsley that I just absolutely love to watch. I mean, he scored a hatful of goals with Newcastle consistently, and then moved to Manchester United, won absolutely everything. He's 180 odd goals in the Premier League. For me to get in the 100 club was a massive achievement. He's just gone and absolutely smashed it, and he's up there with the likes of Kane, the likes of Shearer, Rooney. But I don't think he quite often gets the mention that he should.
What did he need more of to make it into the higher categories then?
The only thing would be, has he got the same all-round game as someone like Harry Kane or Wayne Rooney? It felt like Andy Cole was an out-and-out goal scorer. Yeah, some of his link-up play was brilliant, and it was. Certainly when you think about that 99, with the partnership with Dwight York when they're doing the overs and little 1-2s around the box, and his all-round game was very, very good, but he was more of a goal scorer than say, a Wayne Rooney or Harry Kane. I think they just had a little bit more to their all-round game. But watching Andy Cole was a privilege for me, and I absolutely loved him as a player. And again, I don't think he gets respect maybe that his name should get.
Okay, next up, you've put Alan Shearer as a legend. His one-arm celebration is a defining picture for the first decade of the Premier League, and he's still the top goal scorer despite all of these years. You've got him down as legend. He's not your GOAT. Why have you put him as a legend?
I think anyone who's watched football in the Premier League era has Alan Shearer in the top three. Majority, maybe number one. It's probably one or two. But he's the greatest goal scorer of our generation. He burst on the scene, 17, and scored a hat-trick for Southampton. Blackburn, insane. Newcastle, even though Newcastle weren't, they weren't Arsenal of the generation. They weren't Manchester United. They were Chelsea. Had a spell. He was playing kind of slightly below the top level, if you'd like to say, but still with the numbers that were just absolutely frightening. He scored all types of goals for England as well. A genuine legend and an icon of the game. Who
do you think can top him? Who can knock him off top spot?
You're struggling now. I think Harry Kane was the one. Erling Haaland, signed a 10-year contract. If he goes at the rate that he's going at, then he'd have a chance. But even that is still so difficult to rival. At 260 Premier League goals, and it's not just that. It's like, I remember my Premier League debut was Aston Villa versus Newcastle, and I remember he was the other end of the pitch, and I remember thinking, if that's the level I need to get to, I am miles off this. And that was in my first Premier League game, because he was someone I looked up to and someone that I looked to try and copy his game. He was an absolute icon.
How important is partnerships, though, to be able to get someone to that point, like thinking of a Chris Sutton, for example? How defining are those partnerships to help someone get to that level? Yeah,
definitely. I think, over the course of his career, he would have had lots of them. I remember the Mike Newell partnership he had with Blackburn. Even Les Ferdinand, it felt like, could that work? At Newcastle, I think he could have played, as long as he's got service, he's got crosses, but I don't think he's going to allow anyone to not cross the ball. So he will always get service.
Okay, next we've got Dennis Bergkamp. He was a Arsenal legend, helped revamp them, came away with 3 Premier League titles. Why have you put him down as good?
Like I say, he's a man's a genius, right? That good doesn't do him any service, really. But like I say, the numbers, probably longevity is why people are. But if I was to watch a footballer out of this list that I've created, I think Zola and Bergkamp are 2 players I would pay to watch every day of the week. Yeah, they wouldn't have the numbers of Kane or Shearer, but just he could do things that no one else could do.
Next up is Mo Salah. You've put him down as a great, and do you know what? I knew he was going to be in this list, because every time we do a social media game with you, he ends up winning.
Okay.
So you haven't put him as a legend, and you haven't put him as a GOAT. You've put him as a great. Talk to me about why.
It's everything stacks up, right? He's been here for 10 years. Consistently Liverpool's top goal scorer, consistently providing assists, ruthless, efficient, an all-time Liverpool great. When you look at the players Liverpool have had over the course of their rich history, he's right up there, probably top 3. One of the greatest that Liverpool have ever produced, and that's saying something. How
high can he make it up the chart before he calls it a day at the Premier League?
That's a difficult one, like to say, because I think he's got potential to go and score 25, 30 goals again, if not more. And he signed a contract now to play. Yes, I don't see any sign of it waning, put it that way. So yeah, you can get in the top three, no doubt.
Matt Tissier is down there as good. He was a guy with a rare sense of loyalty. What is the reason that you've put him as a good?
I had a video of him when I was a kid, and some of the goals he scored were absolutely outrageous. Another gifted footballer that probably doesn't get the credit that he deserves. Someone that I just absolutely love playing, watching. Sorry, and it's along the lines of Bergkamp, Zola, and Tissier. Those three. Yeah, there'll probably be other players or people that put other names in those positions, but those three, if you're paying to watch a football match, I don't think you'll be disappointed.
You've put Wayne Rooney as a legend, someone you know very well, can score from inside his own half at Man United, Everton, DC United, you name it. Why is he a legend, not the GOAT?
I just think there's one player that is the best I've ever seen in the Premier League. But what Wayne, it runs that very close. I think he is an all-round, one of the best players I've ever seen. Could do absolutely everything on a football pitch. I had the pleasure of training with him for 5 years with England. The will to win, the desire, the ability, the goals, his attitude, everything about him was top class. And a pleasure to have shared the pitch with him, really. The numbers, record goal scorer for Manchester United, it was for England. Yeah. A genius and someone that burst on the scene at 16 and shook the world.
Do you think he potentially doesn't get the credit he deserves because a lot of his success was early in his career when he was so young and people had such high expectations of him? Yeah,
but I think that's true of Michael Owen as well. That's someone that maybe if the longevity had been there, I think obviously his injuries did kill him. But I think at sort of 17, 18, he was making waves worldwide, and that was the same with Rooney. But I think kind of Rooney's longevity is the reason why he would be kind of in just below the GOAT.
Well, GOAT is next. You've picked Thierry Henry. He raised some eyebrows when Arsene Wenger wanted to sign him in 1999. Only had 3 goals at Juventus from that season. He obviously proved everyone wrong, clearly, but why is he your GOAT and why is he so much higher than everyone else?
When he kind of burst on the scene, or he was signed, it wasn't a huge fanfare about him, right? And I think Ian Wright was an absolute club legend and a fantastic player. He never thought he'd ever be replaced, and then Thierry came in and just did things that he didn't think were possible. And I know he had an amazing team around him, and I know he scored less goals than Alan Shearer, but it was the pace, it was the attitude, it was the guile, the finishing, the creativity. I mean, he set up so many goals as well, and he was absolutely frightening and I think unplayable on his day. There was times where I remember playing against him and he was totally unplayable, and he's, for me, the best player I've seen in the Premier League.